Thank you very much for the invitation. This is a very important forum. This forum takes place at a crucial moment in human history, a moment when humanity lives for the first time a planetary collective society. What happens in one corner of the world affects everyone everywhere. It is vital to understand the sources of growth and sustainability in this new world. This is a moment when the term independent must be changed by the word interdependence. No country's growth prospects are independent of the other countries. This is even more relevant when a handful of countries dominate the growth possibilities of the rest of the world. In simple words, if China or India collapses, the whole planet will collapse. The big lemma today is, I am because you are because I am. We live in a moment when the planet faces a huge and maybe an irreversible ecological crisis. We are aware that the existing ecological instability translates also in social and economic instability. It is impossible to attain sustainable growth without ecological stability. We live in a moment when the constraints to economic growth are not purely technological. Today, they are ecological and biological in nature. Just think about global warming, climate change, biodiversity depletion, pollution of the air and water, the loss of natural forests, pollution of the oceans and rivers, etc. We live in a moment when our society are moving from market-based economic system and institutions to a right-based society. It is evident today the questioning of the economic calculus per se, which is being overridden by a human right-based calculus and also an ethic calculus in search for social justice and peace. This is particularly evident in countries that are seeking the welfare state. This has a tremendous implication for policy design, implementation, investment at all levels of decision-making. Here I refer to human rights in all their dimensions, the economic, social, and cultural rights, and the right to development. As I have studied in the past, I refer to human rights in all their dimensions because they are essential determinants of economic growth, capital accumulation, and stability. We live in a moment when our society faces not only instability as regards markets or other associated institutions, but also instabilities from social injustice in all their dimensions. We are even facing stability because of our inability to attain sustainable development. Sustainability in terms of economics, ecology, and social. We live in a moment when we face the weakest international institutional system to govern our global commons, our global public goods like oceans, glaciers, climate, biodiversity, peace, security, migration, ozone layer, etc. The views within the existing multilateral system are still dominated by a few countries and not by a planetary vision of our common destiny. Major reforms of these systems are needed. And we live in a moment when there is an increasing empowerment of civil society everywhere, which demands by communities and NGOs to fully participate in decision-making. The power of civil society, of course, has been greatly increased through social media and other existing means of communication. Thus, economic growth depends not only on material input, outputs, and markets, but more importantly on the stability of the existing human and social environment, including world peace and security. Economic growth is not only the capital accumulation of physical and financial capital. It really goes far beyond that. We have to include human capital, natural capital, institutional capital, cultural capital, and why not to say it here in this forum, a spiritual capital. This composite of global growth needs to include people's behavior, social demand, existing institutions, incentives, and organizational structures. I would like to say today that after World War II, the spine cord of economic growth and well-being was material prosperity to combat material scarcity and poverty. That spine cord had to be accompanied by needed financial resources to achieve such prosperity. And that's why it would justify the creation of the World Bank and the IMF. But we also said that free markets were supposed to be the engines of growth, and this justified the creation of the World Trade Organization. But let me tell to you today that the world has dramatically changed since World War II. The limits to growth and material prosperity to resolve the multifaceted problem facing our society has reached its capacity. It is not just about more matter or more material prosperity. It's about collective human welfare. It is about constructing a new civilization with a completely different spine cord. Simply said, it is far beyond traditional material economic growth. There is no doubt that economic growth is a necessary condition for this future civilization, but it's not sufficient. The beginning of a new road ahead for humanity is not only about economic efficiency per se, but it must embrace equity and social justice. The new spine cord of the road ahead is sustainable development with an empowered citizenry. This is why I dare today to declare in this audience, in this forum, that the new and only common destiny for humanity we must all aspire for is an ecological civilization. It is through this new spine cord that we will live in a peaceful, stable, and just world. I call all the world leaders to embrace the path toward an ecological civilization. The only acceptable destiny for humanity will surge from this ecological civilization. In my view, there is not another option. The leaders of this forum, particularly the youth, have to face the moral imperative linked to the construction of such a civilization. Today's paradigm of individual materialism will never let an ecological civilization bloom. This is why the non-material dimensions of life, like the realization of spiritual human values, the self-identity, the sense of belonging, are essential to this ecological civilization. The creation of this ecological civilization should take all our efforts. The leaders present here should ask themselves, what stops us from moving swiftly to an ecological civilization? What is the proper narrative for this ecological civilization? Part of the answer of why we do not move swiftly is the power and politics with regard to the ownership, access, exploitation, use, and management of our common public goods. No economic and social institutional system has successfully dealt with this yet. The Growth Forum, the World Growth Forum, is our greatest instance to do so. The World Growth Forum, for me, is our great hope to move into this ecological civilization. To move now, tomorrow might be too late. This is why I believe that we need, through this new civilization, to find the right form of planetary livelihood that we do not have today. The value of interdependence, including all expressions of life, and the value of correspondence, where we don't only look at matter, but also spirit. But let me be clear, an ecological civilization is not just about investments on ecologically enhancing programs, which of course are important. It is also about spiritual, ecological, human, economic, and social values. This new civilization must be organized around the values and beliefs and agreed rights and responsibilities. The values of caring, sharing, mutuality, justice, love, compassion, conservation, harmony, stability, and so on. However, all these values must be self-realized. An ecological civilization is not just about attaining some sort of physical balance, notwithstanding the importance of these physical balances like this water cycle, temperatures, and global warming. This construction of this new ecological civilization must rest on three systems of law. The governance and structure of this civilization today is only in one system of law, what I call human law. And we know today that this path, only based on human laws, has contradicted and has collapsed with the second system of law, which is the laws of nature. It's just a matter of seeing what is happening with global warming and climate change. This has to change, but we need to have a bridge between human laws and natural law. And here it comes the third, group of laws, which I call spiritual laws. Laws that surge from our human collective consciousness. Today's our collective consciousness does not possess the attributes of an ecological civilization. It's not sitting on these three systems of law: human, natural, and spiritual laws.